All right, what's going on, Colts Nation? So, some interesting potential developments looking forward when it comes to the Indianapolis Colts and their GM and what could be happening in the next couple weeks. I want to shout out Stephen Burton. He clipped this part from Albert Breer talking about what could be coming for the Indianapolis Colts and Shane Steichen, Chris Ballard, all that stuff. So, shout out to him for having this clip. But we're going to check this out and react to it because there's some very interesting things here that could potentially be on the horizon. And then I'll give my thoughts. So without further ado, we'll jump right into it.
What about the Colts, Albert? Is there any there? Because I mean, if Irsay and company are looking outside of the building, a very loud voice from inside the city of Indianapolis, and Pat McAfee is all in. I mean, he's putting a lot of laundry out there. And Pat's got a monster megaphone, as we know. Is there anything there?
Yeah, well, I would definitely take into account what Pat's saying. You know, I think the stuff on Anthony Richardson is without question something that you have to pay attention to. I mean, look, like they felt like they had to do a lot to get him on track, and they felt like they did. Is the progress there to the point where you wouldn't add another person to that room at the very least that could compete with him for the job in 2025, and you're sort of effectively taking him off a scholarship, right? Like, and saying, now you got to go and win it. I think that's an open question. I would say the people I've talked to, it sounds more like general manager might be a question there rather than coach. I do think they really like Shane Steichen. You know, I think Chris Ballard on balance has done a pretty good job there, but he's had 8 years and they've only been in the playoffs twice. So, you know, do they look at it and say, okay, Shane Steichen, you can bring in your own guy. Do you bring in, you know, maybe somebody like Ian Cunningham from Chicago, who you were with in Philadelphia, and we build it around the two of you? I think there are a lot of those sorts of discussions happening right now. Now, again, like I would say Indianapolis and Miami are the two where I think the coaches are relatively safe, but the general managers might be.
All right, so a little bit of thoughts there. So first off, talking about, before we get into the GM stuff, Anthony Richardson, you know, he suggested, do you potentially add another quarterback to compete and not just have AAR? Yes, he's going to be the starter presumably next year, but again, you're going to have another guy in there that you bring. Maybe you draft a quarterback a little bit earlier in the first couple rounds. You have the two compete, right? I mean, I don't think that's off the table at all. But also what he talked about with Shane Steichen, from what he heard, Shane Steichen is relatively safe, which is not super surprising, honestly. I think out of the three between him, Chris Ballard, and Gus Bradley, I think Shane Steichen clearly would be the one that you would keep out of the three. And he even suggested this idea that the Colts could potentially be looking to kind of let Shane Steichen essentially pick his new GM, which is definitely a little bit unorthodox, right? He could, you know, Chris Ballard is gone in this situation. Steichen has a GM. So it's a situation where you don't view it potentially as like this, you know, lame duck situation, Chuck Pagano-esque situation like you had back in 2017. And even like the Frank Reich thing that you had as well in 2018. It's not like those sorts of things where, you know, it's just a little bit odd, you know, like Shane Steichen would have, you know, a say in this a lot more than traditionally head coaches would have. Now, some people would say, has Shane Steichen earned that right? I don't think he has. But I think Shane Steichen at least deserves one more chance. And definitely a situation where if he is, you know, playing a part in that process of finding a new GM, it may be more of, you know, eventually, regardless of what happens, it is less of a kind of awkward, forced upon sort of thing that it's been over the years, right? It's a situation where, you know, he's able to go find his guy, and also a guy that maybe, frankly, Chris Ballard, you know, we know what he has not really done in terms of adding to the team. Maybe it's something where Steichen's like, I want a GM that's a little bit more aggressive. I want a GM that's going to do what I ask, right? So just some interesting developments there when it comes to this for Shane Steichen, when it comes to this for the Indianapolis Colts. Just a lot of interesting tidbits there. Definitely sounds like Chris Ballard's seat is very warm. And if I'm a betting man, and I'm not, but if I was betting, I would say Chris Ballard's gone. It'll be interesting to see what does happen when it comes to the GM, but it sounds like Steichen's going to be around at least for this year. So we'll see what happens. Seems like Anthony Richardson will be around for at least one more year, but maybe his seat's not as safe as maybe we presumed going into next year. So all that stuff is so interesting. And again, this is all speculation. You don't truly know what's going to happen until it does happen. But again, we are still, less than a week away from Black Monday, and a lot can happen here in the next couple weeks. So it'll be interesting to monitor nonetheless. But yeah, guys, just wanted to kind of bring this to your attention because this just kind of recently came out, and I kind of wanted to react to it. Again, shout out to Steven for doing that. Really do appreciate him clipping that so we could react to that. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below because this is a very interesting potential development that could be on the horizon for the Indianapolis Colts. Do you agree with this? Would you like to see the Colts kind of go with this approach? Would you like to see the Colts just kind of start over or kind of let the GM decide what he wants to do? I think that's kind of the more traditional thing that I would probably like to do. But again, it's better than keeping Ballard around, in my opinion. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. If you haven't already, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell so that you are in the loop when we drop fresh content just like this. Guys, we are approaching 2,000 subscribers on this channel. If you would do me a massive favor, wherever you are listening from right now, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you are helping us reach that 2,000 subscriber goal. But guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. And as always, guys, go Colts.